putting in work. Work, yeah. Putting in work. I thank God for the favor when the money come. Half for the time, tax fees, insufficient funds. What I gotta do to get ahead? I'm on to something. What I gotta do to get a raise? They all be wanting putting in work. All I ever wanted was a choice. Rolls Royce.
At the Modest Sports Show, we believe in teamwork, and not just on the field. That's why we're proud to partner with Lift Up the Vulnerable, an incredible organization protecting the world's most at-risk children in war-torn regions. Through your support, Lift Up the Vulnerable prevents human trafficking, offers life-saving education, and provides hope to vulnerable communities. Over 86% of every dollar they receive goes directly into their transformative work in Sudan and South Sudan. Make a difference today by becoming a monthly sponsor. Whether it's $10 or $500 a month, every dollar matters. And don't forget, follow Lift Up the Vulnerable on social media to see how your support is changing lives in real time. To learn more about the incredible work they're doing, contact Alex Hill at 205-515-6696 or visit liftupthevulnerable.org. Follow Lift Up the Vulnerable on social media and join the movement. Together, let's lift those up who need it most. Welcome to the Modest Sports Show, home of your college athlete, where we are player-led and player-focused. I'm your host, Corey, and thank you guys so much for tuning into us this evening on the Modest Sports Show. I hope and I pray that we have a lot of new listeners and new faces in the audience tonight. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. There are actually going to be a lot of topics and a lot of things we're going to discuss tonight that I would love a lot of your commentary on the subject matter. And so, tonight we're going to have a great episode. Going to look at a game, and that game being Clemson, versus Texas in the first round of the college football playoff. We're going to take a look at that. And then after that, we're going to take a look at some transfer portal updates and tracker and however you want to label it. Now, that we're going to put a little spin, a little twist on that, just because typically the show is predicated on the micro. So taking a deep dive on each player and circumstance and situation, which I think we're going to do a good job of that tonight. But I would say like the past few weeks I've been more, or I won't even say weeks, just since the football season has started, I've been a lot more macro, looking at teams, looking at schedules, rosters, stuff like that. And so with the new year rolling around and us kind of heading more into the off season, even though we still are we're still in the postseason, but college football is odd. As we head more into the off season, we're going to start back with the player interviews. If you haven't, be sure to go check out all of those from season 1. We're gearing up for season 2, and I'm so excited. I'm ecstatic about what we have coming for you. Me being able to kind of showcase more of my creativity as the owner of this platform. And so really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to that. We're going to be showing you some cool stuff. And but just back to what I was saying, we are moving more into and getting back more into what the show is predicated on. The singularity of what makes this a whole, and that's each individual player. That's what we're passionate about, and that is what the Modest Sports Show was created for. And so with that being said, let's take a look at this Texas versus Clemson matchup in the first round in the college football playoff. We have Texas at 5 and Clemson at 12. They will be heading off at DKR-Texas Memorial Stadium. The over-under for this game is 51.5 points. And when I reference a lot of these stats, because we have a lot of stats for this game, you'll understand why the over-under is the way that it is. Texas is favored by 11 points in this game, and Clemson obviously would be your 11-point dog. All right. So heading into this, let's take a look at Texas's defense versus Clemson offense and what that matchup will entail. Coming into this matchup, Texas defense is third in the nation. Total defense, third in the nation at 249.5 yards per game. Now, rushing defense, and we'll categorize each overarching stat. Categorically, their rush defense is 15th in the nation with 106.4 yards per game they're giving up on the ground. Passing yards allowed, they're giving up 143.1 yards per game. They're first in the nation in that category, this Texas defense. Third down conversion percentage. So while Texas is on defense and teams are trying for a first down on third down, they give up a first down on this percentage rate in the country, and that's 31%. So that's great. That's beneath 50%. So teams have less than 1 out of 3 chances to get a first down on them when they are on defense. So these are some pretty stout defensive stats. Now one might say, well, Texas has yet to be challenged defensively this season other than in their 2 losses. And those 2 losses both come to Georgia. So you tell me what you think. Clemson offensively, total offense is ranked 12th in the nation at 454.9 yards per game. Categorically, their rushing offense is 43rd in the nation, 180.8 yards per game. Yards in the air per game, they're 17th in the nation at 274.1 yards per game. 48th in the nation in time of possession, about 30 minutes they have the ball. And then third down conversion percentage, opposite. So when they're on offense and they're trying for a first down against their opponent's defense, they're 24th in the nation at 45%. So this is going to be an interesting matchup, this Texas defense against this Clemson offense, right? We've seen what Clemson offensively can do. They have a dual-threat quarterback in Cade Klubnik, right? And they also got some weapons at receiver. We've seen Antonio Williams get off. Not quite sure what the status of Phil Maffa will be for them in the run game. I believe I was told they have some injury in that area, so they might be limited. But that is what the Texas defense versus Clemson offense matchup looks like. So let's flip it, and then let's go on the other side, and then I'll tell you kind of what I think this game is going to be. So offensively for Texas, their total offense is 18th in the nation at 445.4 yards per game. Categorically, their rushing offense is 64th in the nation at 164.4 yards per game. Yards in the air per game, they're 13th in the nation at 281 even. 57th in the nation in time of possession. So key this, right, that time of possession battle. Clemson's offense, Texas offense, they both average about 30 minutes of ball per game, of holding the ball. So that's going to be very essential to the outcome of this game, and you'll see why. Texas offensively on their third down conversion percentage, they're 33rd in the nation at 44%. Clemson defensively, total defense, 65th in the nation, 364.9 yards per game. Their rushing defense is 73rd at 150.5 yards per game. Their passing yards allowed, 60th in the nation at 143.1 yards per game. And third down conversion on defense for this Clemson football team, 41st in the nation at 35%. Now, that was a lot. That was a mouthful. And I know sometimes the stats of the game may get boring. They may not have meaning, purpose, whatever. But it is very indicative to how this game is going to be played. So some of my game notes were understandable why Texas is an 11-point favorite in this game. Clemson struggles defensively to what we know Texas can do offensively. If this Texas team is clicking, it is going to be a tough day for the Clemson defense. Now, what I'll add to this, Texas run game, right? Clemson has to force Texas to run the ball and beat them. And just as I'm even thinking about that, right, Texas rushing leaders, I'm sure. I don't believe they don't have a 1,000-yard rusher on the season. That's not to say they don't have dynamic backs. They have a couple dynamic backs in Wisner as well as Jaden Blue. I'll only add that Texas, for as good and for as explosive as this Texas offense can be at times, they lack a run game. And I do feel like over these past couple of weeks, the way we've seen Texas play football, we've seen Coach Sarkisian really try to get Arch Manning involved in the run game, bringing him in, especially in the red zone, which, if we'll take note of that, the red zone is an area that Texas struggles. 92nd in the nation. And that's actually not particularly low when you look at the rate or the percentage in which they score. I believe it was around 80%, somewhere in that percentile. Either way, this Clemson defense really needs to force Texas to run the ball because, as we've seen it in the SEC championship game. Even though for me that game was kind of disappointing for Texas in Texas's regard. And what I mean when I say that, in that game, Quinn Ewers had about 330 yards passing, and I want to say, overall, the Texas offense had about 450 yards of offense. They only walked away with 19 points. I don't think that's enough, and I think everyone would agree if this Texas team is going to continue to play late into the season, they're going to have to come up more in the red zone. I think it's also worthy to note that penalties killed them in that Georgia game. Penalties. In the Georgia, last week against Georgia in the SEC championship game, there were 11 penalties for 94 yards. So Texas is obviously not a bad football team. Georgia has kind of been elbow in Texas's side, the same way Alabama is for Georgia. And so this Texas team, I think they have a lot of potential. I think what worries me most about Texas is sustainability. Like, we know, and I believe I said this earlier in the season, we know Texas can play ball. We know that they're an elite team. Just how elite are they? That is my biggest question. And so just to get back to the notes, Clemson is going to have to rely on offense. They're going to have to rely heavily on their offense, in my opinion. And so this over-under line being at 51.5, I believe it's indicative of a shootout, obviously. And I think this game is going to come down to, can Clemson force Texas to run the football and get some stops running the football? Who's going to win the time of possession battle? If Clemson can if Clemson can hold on to the football longer than Texas can and walk away with points on a significant amount of drives, I think they'll be able to get Texas. Now, inversely, if Texas is able to get this offense rolling, okay, and score points, because like we've seen Texas score points and outscore their opponents in every game this season, for the most part. The only team they didn't do that with was Georgia. So Clemson's defensive effort is going to have to be remarkable in this game for them to come out with a win at Texas. I also want to add that if we're looking, just kind of going back, because this is more of a free form tonight. I think I'm probably going to get a little bit more in depth and have more to add when we talk about this transfer portal tracker next. But just as it pertains to Texas and Georgia, something that really stuck out to me was Georgia dominated the trenches in that game. I believe Texas only had 30 or 40 rushing yards that game. And Georgia, on the other hand, had 140. And that game was so lopsided because Georgia, like I spoke on a couple episodes ago, Georgia did not show this season that they had a dynamic running back, someone who could get north and south quickly, someone who could reach the second and third level and not get caught. Just that running back, right? That not necessarily an Ashton Genty, maybe a Cam Scatterbo, maybe let's see, what am I? Maybe a Singleton at Penn State. Give me another name. Who is another running back in college football that you enjoy seeing this season and that you think fits this description of a dynamic running back? I feel Georgia did not have that this season. I feel like that has been that has probably been, and to be honest, Georgia offensively as a whole has struggled. I think that's no secret. What's been most disappointing to me is them in the wide receiver room. Spoke on that a few episodes ago also. But Georgia dominated the trenches in that game and just completely flipped the switch on what Georgia typically does versus what Texas does. And so Texas lost that game, penalty margin, time of possession margin. They lost in the trenches. They lost in all the areas that are important to win, right? Those hustle plays, the hustle stats. Those are the areas where they lost the game. So this Clemson team is really going to have to limit some of the flair of this Texas offense and really win in those hustle stats, those hustle margins, get time of possession, walk away with points in the red zone, limit Texas in the red zone, just all those areas, right? So Clemson defense, X factor for me in this game. My pick in this game, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Texas. I'll be shocked, though, with Clemson being an 11-point dog. I'll be shocked if Clemson can really take this game to the wire. I'll be really shocked, really, really shocked. And next week on the show, we will have I'll kind of discuss more of the games the same way I did this, more in depth. And I'll discuss some other, SMU versus Penn State, and what else do we have? Indiana versus Notre Dame, and what's the last first round game? Penn State, SMU, Indiana, Notre Dame, Clemson, Texas. Who am I missing? Tennessee and Ohio State. I actually can't wait to do the Tennessee and Ohio State one. So, without further ado, let's move on to the transfer portal tracker. So, I have a few names, and I'm going to try to take my time in discussing each one of these. And I also want to preface this with, and this is viewers' discretion is advised. When it comes to the transfer portal, okay, I am more of an advocate of players being able to join the transfer portal than not. I understand that because I played college football and I understand the college football terrain, all right, each situation varies, okay, and especially at the rate college football in the state that we're in now, the same way that it's a business decision for an organization in the NFL to move on from a player or to re-sign a player or to trade or cut, release, we've moved to this state in college football where it is the exact same. I was speaking with a coach the other day, and he had to move on from a player because the player was not operating functionally at a level in which the organization needed him to. And so they had to move on from this player. And he discussed, and we discussed on the phone, how he said, we don't have the luxury to bring guys along. And also, this might be a quick tidbit to, just while I'm on this rant, this might be a quick tidbit to the guys out there, right? The guys who are still in college football, my guys who are really grinding and trying to get it and trying to make their dreams come true. Like I said, I was speaking with a coach the other day. They don't have the time. They don't have the attention span to dedicate to you to pull you along and develop you. You have to come ready. And that doesn't just mean you need to come – well, in some cases, it doesn't just mean you need to come ready to play right now. There are differences, right? And there are situations varied to each specific and each individual athlete. For the most part, though, you need to come ready to focus. You need to come ready to give your 100% effort every day. You need to come to work hard. You need to come to study film. You need to come to take care of your bodies. You need to come to take care of to drink water, like all the things that encapsulate a great athlete on the college football level, you need to come equipped with those things already, because coaches don't have the time to dedicate to a roster of now 105 players and ensure that each one is doing every single thing that he's supposed to every day. There has to be a sense of maturity, even in the young guys. I know, 17, 18 coming out of high school, but even in you younger guys, you have to come equipped, and you need to be ready to take on the challenges, the everyday obstacles that college is going to present. I'm telling you now, these coaches, they are looking for guys who are ready right now, not guys they have to raise. Guys that they're ready for, guys that are ready right now. So just a quick tidbit. And the names that I'm mentioning on this transfer portal list, okay, they don't, I don't know their situation. I don't even know any of these guys personally. Now, of course, we hope for them to come on a Modest Sports Show and tell their stories and maybe even shine some light on their decision to enter the transfer portal like many of our wonderful guests have in the past. But I don't know them. I don't know their situations. I'm just only I'm speaking from an outsider's point of view. And if this just so happens to make its way to someone in either of these people's camps, feel free to reach out. Let's talk about it and educate me on why they entered the portal, and let's see if we can get them on the show. But aside from that, one of the first names that I seen was Ty Thompson, Tulane quarterback. He was at Oregon prior to Tulane. Now, coming into the year at Tulane, and I got some guys down at Tulane, so shout out to Tulane. Tulane had a pretty good season. They just lost their conference in the AAC championship game. But for the most part, first-year head coach John Sumrall, who him and I have run across each other several times, had a great season. So Coach Summy, very good year in year one at Tulane. I'm sure he's looking to grow and build. Now the second name, okay, because like I said, I got some people down at Tulane. So it's kind of an intricate situation, and what I expect to happen, I don't know. So please, this is no speculation, or this is only speculation. I do not know for sure. But Darian Mensah, Tulane quarterback, commits to Duke. He hit the portal and he committed to Duke. He went on a visit to Duke, I believe, on his first time going to Duke or whatnot, and he committed this winter transfer window. So he's committed. Now that's two quarterbacks at Tulane. Now with everything going on in Tulane's camp or in that organization, especially with Coach Sumrall being so highly touted with the job he's done at both Troy and now Tulane, some might lead to believe that he may be leaving Tulane to take another job elsewhere. Now, we know that he addressed the speculation that he might do that in the press conference leading up to the Army versus Tulane championship game. And he kind of said, he's not focused on that, not looking at that, this and the third. But we know, you kind of got to be media friendly, and you got to be able to work the media and know what to say, what not to say. And so for me, this is just kind of like indicative of the potential of Coach Sumrall leaving, because Darian Mensah being your starting quarterback, and granted, he had a great season. And so, of course, at this day and age, players are making decisions for them to expand their net worth as well as opportunities and potential. And so just two quarterbacks leaving, though, your starting quarterback and then a backup quarterback who got a decent amount of playing time, it's kind of iffy. But moving on, Malik Murphy, Duke quarterback. So as you can see how it all connects. Darian Mensah, right, goes to Duke while Malik Murphy is leaving Duke. Now he's set to go on a visit to Auburn this weekend, or whenever the visit is set up. I'm sure it's going to be in the next couple of days. But Malik Murphy, I do feel like with this Auburn football team, the one thing they were missing was a quarterback. And so for me, I think this pickup, it might be a good pickup. I got another guy, though, that I feel like would really take Auburn to the next level. That's not to say Malik Murphy isn't a good quarterback, but for the weapons that Auburn has right now, I definitely feel like if they were to pick up someone else, which we'll get to later in the list, actually next in the list, I feel like they will have more of a potential to be a juggernaut like next season with what they already have built. Fernando Mendoza, Cal quarterback. This guy impressed me against, who was it? It wasn't Miami, because I did not watch, even though that game was a nail-biter and it came down to the end. Fernando Mendoza, I cannot remember. I believe it may have been Wake Forest. It may have been Wake Forest. I think it was it may have been Wake Forest. And so he thoroughly impressed me in that Wake Forest game. Tall kids, I think 6'6". I think they said probably about 190-ish, 200 pounds, big arm. And I feel like given his stature, you might look at him and say, okay, probably pro-style quarterback, pocket passer. But he is actually a great dual-threat quarterback, has legs and can run like a deer. So Fernando Mendoza was someone who I really paid attention to, and I think this season, like the games they throwing 300 and 400 yards a game, and them kind of having this space out offense out at Cal, I feel like Fernando Mendoza really created a lot of value for himself this year, and I look forward to seeing where he ends up. I think if they could get him out at Auburn, and obviously, that was a matchup, Cal and Auburn this season, that Cal won, large in part because of his effort. I feel like Fernando Mendoza can actually help Auburn like right now and maybe elevate them to a level of the playoffs next season. So I say that because my predictions and my estimations are always kind of like sneaky. I don't know. If you haven't, you should be sure to go check out the Modest Sports Show on Instagram and go follow us on X and go follow us on TikTok and all the locations where you can find the Modest Sports Show. Just a suggestion. But Fernando Mendoza, I think he can help this Auburn football team right now. Moving on, Mario Craver, Mississippi State wide receiver. So he's a Birmingham, Alabama native. And so when I was taking my excursions to Starkville, going to Jacoby Albert's transfer portal, Jacoby Albert is in the transfer portal right now, was a Mississippi State safety. But my little brother, i.e., or in other words, Mario Craver really impressed me. I think he kind of led that receiving corps at Mississippi State the back half of the year. I want to say early in the year it was the Kevin Coleman show, but Mario Craver really impressed me down the stretch in the year. I think he picked up, and I want to say he's set for a visit at Texas A&M, and so to be honest, I think the kid has a lot of growth and a lot of potential. And he's going to be if he can build on what he did this season, next year he's going to be that guy wherever he ends up. If he can just build on what he did this year at his next landing spot, I'm telling you, man, kid can play. Blake Shapen, returning to Starkville. Now, I know we said transfer portal, right? But Blake Shapen obviously went down with an injury early in the year, and he was out for the remainder of the year. Now, the reason that this is so intriguing or something to note, Jackson Arnold, quarterback from Oklahoma, is in the transfer portal, and there's been talks that Jackson Arnold could potentially end up at Mississippi State. Now, I feel like Lebby, head coach at Mississippi State, he may just bring in Jackson Arnold and toss the stick in between them and say, all right, let's see who wins, just to get the best quarterback, for that situation in Starkville next year. I'm really interested to see what the Mississippi State Bulldogs can do in year 2. Very interested to see that. So Jackson Arnold, obviously big name, entering the portal. Ready to see what that quarterback battle might entail if he does end up picking Mississippi State come this spring. All right, moving on. Eric Singleton Jr., Georgia Tech wide receiver. Now, I believe this guy here, he could play as well, right? I like his run style at receiver, and I believe he created a lot of value for himself in the Georgia game that he played in. Obviously, we know that was a spectacular ending to that game, But Eric Singleton Jr., I think he might be set to go on a couple visits, I'm quite sure, here over these next couple of weeks. And that guy can ball. The guy can ball. And it's not even to say that Georgia Tech isn't a good organization or they have a good team, but, I mean, the rate at which he played this year and the games that he had, the numbers that he posted, he can definitely move on to a higher level of ball and contribute right away and have, set himself up for a better future. So, can't be mad at the move. All right, moving on. Connor Wigman, Texas A&M quarterback. Now, this was interesting, especially a lot of these guys obviously all played, everyone on this list. But Connor Wigman, it was potentially it's a sad part about college football. And I referenced this earlier when we talked about situation and players not having a choice, players not being able to have the luxury in developing and getting multiple opportunities. The landscape that we're in now is going to cause for one chance. You get one shot, right? I hate that it's like that, but that's why to all my guys, it's so important that you seize your opportunity, because I personally feel like Connor Wigman lost his job in the game against Texas. I feel like that was a big game for him, a lot of first half struggles. I mean, he got hurt early in the year. He came back against Missouri, I believe, and that was he balled out that game. He really showed out. He looked like when he left, he hadn't missed a beat. He didn't skip a beat. And so, I feel like between the Missouri game and this Texas game that they played, 2 weeks ago, there have been some ups and downs, and he hadn't really maintained a level of consistency. But the first half of the Texas game was kind of like the last straw, and he didn't. And I really hate for dudes to be forced to leave. I think he's a lefty quarterback, has a good arm. And so I believe Connor Williams is a lefty. I forget. Don't quote me on that. Either way, has a good arm, no matter which arm he throws with, has a good arm. And I just hate for guys to be in these situations, man. I hate it. I hate for guys to be in these situations. Moving on, and this is another. These last two are actually two others. Miller Moss, USC quarterback. And the one thing that struck me with Miller Moss, and, again, I have no dog in the fight on if he should have stayed or if he should have left. I think the biggest thing is, when you have opportunity, right? It's the ball doesn't bounce your way. And if you end up having to leave a college because you didn't make the best of the opportunity, you can go somewhere else and you can start over. But at the end of the day, the common denominator is you. So whatever offensive scheme you're playing in, whatever situation, at the end of the day, is football. And so I really believe that Miller Moss, he had a lot of opportunities at USC. And, it's just one of those things, you're leaving big brands, whether it's Connor Wigman at Texas A&M or whether it's Malik Murphy or at Duke or whatever the case. Malik Murphy started off at Texas, or Todd Thompson. Todd Thompson started off at Oregon. And so you're leaving big brands, and that's fine and well, but at the end of the day, no matter where you go, you're still going to have to play football. You still have to compete, and you still have to line up and beat the guy in front of you or beside you or ahead of you, regardless. And so, and for the guy that's behind you, you got to compete and beat him every day to keep your job. So Miller Moss, obviously wish him the best of luck, but I don't know, not quite sure where some of these guys are going to be able. They're going to find homes and they're going to play, but is it going to look like it did at USC? That's my only caveat. Lastly, we have Thomas Castellanos, and I believe I'm saying that right. I don't think it's Castellanos. I think it's Castellanos. Boston College quarterback. Now, this guy, I think he can play ball. I definitely believe he can play ball. And to me, he fit what Boston College did perfectly, actually, with the option style offense to spread style offense, like multiple, I think he fit what they could do. The biggest thing that stuck out to me for him this season, very turnover prone. And so that's not to take away from what he can do. But I really feel like this offseason, he has to work on his ball security. He fumbling the ball, interceptions, like really have to focus on keeping the ball and not taking away from all the good that he does for, turning the ball over. Like looking at his QBR was 38.3 this year. And so he could do a better job. He could do a better job at, and I'm sure he knows this, he could do a better job, though, at maintaining ball possession and not subtracting from all the good things he does. And so, with that being said, that was our final take of the evening. Right now, I would greatly appreciate if you dropped a like on this video and be sure to turn on your post notifications because we always drop on Thursdays. So this video is going to come out tomorrow morning. It is currently Wednesday night. I got to get this video edited and out to you beautiful people. Aside from that, be sure to go follow us on social media. Be sure to go follow us on social media, okay? And be on the lookout for more of our content. And be on the lookout for more of our takes. Be on the lookout for more college football. And be on the lookout for more modesty. With that being said, you all have a wonderful evening. And I will see you on the next episode of the Modest Sports Show. Peace.